Alright, what is up Design 3? Here's challenge number 2 in Photoshop for the Photoshop certification preparations. And so we're just going to get right into it. So this challenge, we are going to take a file that I have provided for you in Schoology. This is going to be a cutout image right here. It's going to look just like this. Got this guy, he's cut out, ready to go, and we need to place him in the right place. Now, let me show you the original picture he came from. You can see that this is the original picture he came from. It's like a snowy wonderland, basically, and it is very, very bright. The goal here, the challenge here, is to place him somewhere completely opposite. And so we want to choose some place that's probably going to be nighttime or really dark. We want to place him somewhere completely opposite, and we're going to use a specific tool in Photoshop to make that happen and make him fit, look like he actually belongs. So let's get into it. Here we go. So first things first, I'm going to load in the picture that I'm going to use as my background. You can use unsplash.com to find your specific background image, but that's all you're going to need to find on your own. I'm going to drag this into Photoshop, and you can see this is going to be my image I'm going to work with. It's like this alleyway, it's dark, but there's like these lights above it that are going to be above his head and all that stuff. So now I got my image loaded up. Let's go ahead and load in our guy. So we're going to drag him in here, and here he is. All right, cool. So I'm just going to resize him first. Find out the perfect size that he needs to be. So let's put him right in the middle there. I don't know. We'll do our best guess as far as the right size. That looks pretty good. Doesn't look bad. So we'll go with that size right there. Place him, hit enter to place. Now we're ready to get into these tools. So I'm gonna go over here, and actually this is the tool it's probably gonna look like at first. So the tool we're going to highlight today is going to be the dodge tool. So this is what the first tool it's probably going to look like in your toolbar, but there are more tools in this section. So we're going to use a bunch of them. The dodge tool, as you can see here, it brightens up areas. If you can see this little preview, it's brightening up the flower. So we're going to use that, but we're not going to use that because we don't need to brighten him up, but you might end up going back to it. But if you click and hold, we're going to see there's a burn tool. So it's going to do the complete opposite. Let's see what it does. See, there's the flower, and it's darkening some of those shadowy areas. So since he came from a bright area, the snowy area, we're going to need to burn his image and make it a little darker. So let's go in there and check this out. You might get this little circle with a line through it at first. Just click on the page and then hit OK. And you'll be able to work with this. So here's a couple extra things here. So I said that every challenge we're going to get a little harder, so it's just going to be a few extra things. If we look up here, we've got the range at which you can control. So we're going to mess with the shadows, maybe some of the midtones. So pretty much we're going to mess with some of the darker areas. We're going to the exposure is basically how strong it's going to be. So I'll leave it at 50%. And let's zoom in here and see what we can do. So you don't just want to go in and just start burning the whole image like, oh, he needs to be way darker. Like, that's not going to entirely work. We need to find out the areas at which are going to be darkest. So I'm going to undo that. And I think the top of his head is going to be pretty bright because all these lights are hanging above his head. So we're not going to mess with that. But definitely like under his chin is going to be darker. And then of course his shoulder here, all his sides there. This part of his jacket's going to be darker for sure. So we're just going to burn certain parts of him. His shoes are going to be really dark, so we're just going to darken those completely. And his pants are already jet black, so we can't really do much with that. If we want to darken his shirt, we should be able to go to the highlights over here at the top, change it to highlights, and darken his shirt just a little bit so it's not super stark white. Probably shouldn't be like the brightest possible. There we go. And so that will darken some of the highlights. Let's actually darken some more of his face in here. Go back to shadows. And so you're gonna see kind of like his face is gonna get more saturated. So you saw that? And go back, so you can see there's his skin tone there, and then when I go over it, you might get some like real heavy saturation, and that's while you're darkening and burning, and that's okay. So what we can do is there's one more tool in here. It's called the sponge tool. So you might use all three, you might not, but sponge tool will desaturate. See up here we got desaturate or saturate. We're gonna desaturate the part that got saturated. So I'm gonna just paint over this, and it's gonna chill that out a little bit. Maybe that was a little too strong. So that means I can go up here to flow and drag this down quite a bit, and it's just not gonna be as strong. There we go. That looks good. Zoom out, and now he kind of fits a little bit more. He's definitely darker than he was before, and now he's fitting this scene. In my opinion, I probably would end up making him a tiny bit smaller. I think this was a little too tall for it to be realistic. And you know, I'm gonna do one more thing. Remember how there was 3 tools? There was this burn tool, sponge tool, and the dodge tool brightens. So I'm gonna use the dodge tool to just brighten the top of his head, because there should be like a little bit of a shine on the top of his head from the lights. And there we go. So that's it. Got a little bit of, maybe that was a little too much. We'll just go back, do a little more. All right, so now he's looking like he fits a little bit more. Well, definitely a lot better than before, and it's all from using just a couple simple tools. A dodge tool to brighten, burn tool to darken, and sponge tool to saturate or desaturate if he's too saturated or not saturated enough for your background. So use these tools. This is your next challenge. I'm providing this guy for you. You just have to find the background. All right, good luck.